Welcome back to HirePresence. We have got a great show going today. Jim Fortin, MindAuthorityNetwork.com, expert in persuasion and influence. Now, you might not think that persuasion and influence, I don't know, how does that apply to job seekers becoming job finders? Well, it has everything to do with it, because no matter how you slice it, you're going to make a sale. You're selling yourself as a bundle of assets to an employer, right? There's so many keys and ingredients to starting and going through that interview. And Jim, we're going to talk about that.
I want to actually add something there, and I really want to talk to the people watching this, because you said, how can you use persuasion and influence getting a job? Okay, this is what I really want people to get. This is something I tell my live audiences, okay? So I really want them to get it, so I'm going to look at them.
Yeah.
But I want them to get that the only thing you will ever be paid for is your ability to persuade and your ability to influence people. That's it. So when it comes to sales, the only way you're going to get paid is your ability to persuade and influence that person to do business with you. When it comes to you folks looking for a job, the only way you're going to get that job is to persuade and to influence that hiring manager, VP of sales, whoever it is, to give you the job. That's how you use persuasion and influence. It must become the foundation of everything that you do.
Well, in every area, even after you make the sale. It's like, dating's great, marriage is awesome, but the only way...
You better be persuasive and influential. You
got to keep those persuasion and influence skills going after the sale.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, once you've got the job, you've got to keep that going. And I've known, and anytime, we've always been trained in sales.
Yeah.
You got to know how to do this stuff.
Yep.
But for a lot of the world, they go, well, I'm not in sales. Look,
yes,
you're always in sales. You're always in persuasion. So when we get into this next part, we're going to go into rapport building.
Right.
And I want to know, how do I establish, or how do our listeners establish rapport?
That's a great question, and something that most people miss. I've trained thousands of selling professionals all the way from Wall Street to Main Street, and the selling professionals are always, I've been at Fortune 500, I know how to create rapport, that's for my entry-level people. Yet what most have never realized is that rapport truly is unconscious. Mm-hmm. For example, it's like, it would be, you ever been to a business dinner and 4 people are sitting up at a table, one person tells a joke and he sits back and everyone sits back.
Right.
That's unconscious rapport. And many sales trainers will tell people, well, go into their office and look for something. They went to UT, you play golf, this and that. That's commonality, not rapport. So the first and the most vital step which you have to create is unconscious rapport with the person across from you. Even as I'm talking to you, my head nod is matching your head nod, okay? Yeah. We get in sync with people unconsciously. And what many people do is they mismatch. So let's talk very quickly and give them some takeaways.
Sure.
When it comes to rapport building, there are 3 steps to unconscious rapport building. Those steps are mirroring, pacing, and leading people. That means that you mirror their body language, and what will happen is very quickly they'll fall into a rhythm with you when you're mirroring their body language. The next is to pace them. You can pace them verbally by whatever words they use. If you said in actuality a lot, I'd say, Pat, in actuality, because I am pacing your actual brain language. That makes sense to you. And then you start leading people with suggestions, and those are language patterns. Things like, Pat, the more we visit, the more you're going to realize that I really am a great fit for this position. Or the more that we visit, the more that you're going to realize that I really do bring skills beyond anyone else. So I'm mirroring their body language to pull them in, I'm pacing them, and then I'm planting suggestions for where I want them to go. Make sense?
It makes perfect sense to me. And a lot of you may not realize you got to rewind and re-listen to what Jim just said until you learn that phraseology a little bit. And then really engage with Jim on the MindAuthorityNetwork.com, because you teach people how to begin to
pull people in, for a lack of better words. Let me give you guys, I don't want you to take my word for it. Prove it to yourself. People are like, it can't be that easy to pull people in. Well, it is. Take what I've just shared with you about mirroring people. Take it out today. The next person you meet, mirror them. If they cross their arms, give it 7 to 10 seconds. You cross your arms. They sit back. You sit back in about 7 to 10 seconds. And what you're going to find is within a couple of minutes, you have moved into a rhythm. You have pulled them in. unconsciously.
Now, you also train people how to match speech patterns.
Speech patterns, language patterns. I was talking to someone earlier today. She was moving at this pace, which told me she was predominantly highly visual. So when I talked to her, I moved predominantly at this pace because I wanted the pace, her voice pace. Her brain understands that language at this speed. If I were like, hi, how are you today? I've lost the person just like that, right? The person checks out. So I know they're visual. Not only that, I know that she thinks predominantly visual. I'm going to draw pictures for her. I'm going to show her things. I'm going to communicate with her in the way that her brain works.
This is really good. I know it's really funny because Jim and I have done other interviews where we were doing radio, and he said, "Pat, you're very auditory right now," and because my pattern of speaking at that time was a little slower, and I said, "Well, Jim, we're on radio. People that are listening to this are not seeing us; they're having to hear us." And so I was matching my audience, which is the most important thing.
We have to talk when we have time. Even if we come back, we have to talk about the difference between radio. Do we have 30 seconds?
Actually, we're about to go to a break,
Okay.
so but
We'll
we're going to come back.
Stay with us. Great talk coming back.
Because the thing is, in each of these parts today, we're building on the mind authority concept of persuasion and influence, and how you can make the best use of your next interview. This is HirePresence. We'll be right back.
Yvonne is a sweetheart. She's an awesome person, an awesome inspiration to us all.
Yvonne does not just talk the talk, she walks the walk about what's important in life and what she thinks changes for people.
Yvonne is so positive that she makes me want to be a better me.